It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
That's caught! Touchdown! Stayed inside the boundary and gets in for 6.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Richie right to the rim, driving score! He would not be denied!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Sponsored by Any Hour Services, Electrical, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday, powered by KSL Sports. Live from Broadcast House, I'm Kyle Ireland, and Mitch Harper is live from Cincinnati, Ohio, as BYU football gets ready to take on the Bearcats tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, live here on KSL News Radio. But yesterday, Mitch, BYU Basketball had an outstanding performance in a ranked matchup, and these are the times that BYU fans have dreamed of for decades. Ranked basketball team, ranked football team. What could be better as BYU Basketball put on a show against the Wisconsin Badgers yesterday?
98-70, BYU crushes Wisconsin. I'm putting that lightly. They hammered Wisconsin. There was never a feeling in this game where BYU was going to be threatened. Maybe before the under-16 media timeout in the second half, where A.J. DeBonsa gets his fourth foul, and you're thinking, oh, maybe, Wisconsin can come back. But Richie Saunders said, don't worry, everyone, I got this. Richie goes off 26 points, 10 of 16 from the field. The sharpshooter, tater tot king that he is, 5 of 9 from 3. He was brilliant. A.J. goes off for 18. Rob Wright goes for 10 and 11 dimes, 7 boards. Look, Kyle, BYU obliterated Wisconsin. They win by 28. They climb in the predictive ratings 10 spots. So in things like Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, they're now a top 10 team in those predictive ratings, which is probably more important, way more important than the AP top 25. They're now number 7 in Ken Palm. This BYU team, Kyle, yesterday looked like the group that we envisioned they would be this year. They were brilliant yesterday against the Badgers.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this is a Wisconsin team that had their season ended a year ago by BYU. And I know that it's different rosters on both sides, but the fact that BYU took them out in the tournament, this was an opportunity for revenge for Wisconsin. And they had a 6-5 lead early in the first half, and then BYU regained the lead and just ran away with it. They cut it down to single digits there around that mark that you were talking about, with AJ getting those 2 fouls back-to-back there early in the second half. And that was a little disappointing, but at the same time, Mitch, I like the fact that that happened in a game where BYU was able to roll and blow a team out, and it's a ranked win. But the fact that AJ is now able to learn from that, mistake, if you want to call it that, where he picks up those 2 quick fouls. And Kevin Young said after the game, he only has to tell AJ something one time, and then he takes it to heart and learns from it. And this is going to be an opportunity now early on in the season where AJ is going to be more conscious about those things and try not to pick up bad fouls back to back like that in games that may be more important later on when you're in conference play, when you're weeks before the tournament. And I think that BYU, it was just outstanding to see the way that their big 3 played again, because it really does come down to those 3 guys. I thought Rob Wright was outstanding yesterday after, a little bit of a slow start, but he was excellent. Just the way that BYU is able to move the ball, the way that they were able to shoot the ball against Wisconsin was nice to see after the way that they kind of struggled from the outside, especially Richie, the way that he shot the ball poorly from three-point land against UConn. Just all around, it was an excellent performance, and it was really nice to see. The one thing that I will say, a lot of fans, Mitch, did not love to see the sight of those 2 teams matching up on that neon purple court.
The Grimace Court, the NBA Cup Jazz Court, I was okay with it. I didn't mind.
I thought it was fun.
I mean, it's, if you're going to play, and now if that was the Marriott Center, I'd be appalled. But if you're going to be in the Delta Center at 2 p.m. on a Friday, let's get weird. That's just kind of my thought. It was like a purple Grimace Court, and BYU absolutely crushed Wisconsin. I think what's impressive, too, is they did it still without Kennard Davis, who still out due to a violation of team rules is how BYU is putting it. Obviously, he was cited with DUI and possession of marijuana by Provo Police Department, still ongoing. And even Kevin Young earlier this week said he knows what happened. He knew everything that was going on. They'll let the process play out, but he did not play. Keita did play, which was great to see because Keita suffered a head injury against UConn. He was back in the lineup, but what was nice, though, for the Cougars is that they didn't need Keita for the full 40 minutes. You got great contributions off the bench from Hadim Boop, who gives you 6 points, 5 boards in 19 minutes. I love the contributions that he provided to BYU, the energy he brings, those hustle plays. Him and Dominique Diomande, I thought were excellent in some of those 50-50 balls, maintaining possession for BYU. I like the contributions from those guys. Diomande, 16 minutes, 6 points. I think still some of his shooting. There was a shot in the corner. I think it was in front of BYU's bench where he's wide open. You got to knock that down. That's your opportunity to really make a case to continue to increase the workload. But Diomande is going to be an excellent player for BYU. The depth of this team, Kyle, is impressive. And I think what was cool, too, was BYU wins by 28 over a ranked team. It's the tied for the third largest margin of victory for BYU versus a ranked team. 2 of the top 3 have come under the watch of Kevin Young. The first being earlier this calendar year against number 23 Kansas in Provo when the Cougs crushed the Jayhawks 91-57. The one in between was against Oregon back in 2021 when Mark Pope's BYU Cougars took down the Ducks 81-49. And speaking of Coach Pope, I saw him in action last night. I thought, I didn't realize Lexington, Kentucky was so close to Cincinnati, only an hour and a half away. And myself and Jackson Payne from the Deseret News, we made the drive up to Rupp Arena, and we're like, let's go see historic Rupp. And it was kind of interesting to see Mark Pope in action coaching again. And he did a coach's show after the game for like 3,000 Kentucky fans. It was the most bizarre thing. I've never seen something like that, but I guess that's Big Blue Nation with Kentucky. It was cool to be in that building. But one of the things I also took away from seeing that in person with Kentucky, and it was a bad D1 team. They were facing a team called Loyola Chicago. But what I watched there, I'm thinking, this is Kentucky. And I looked at that team and said, they wouldn't beat BYU, whether it's Rupp, whether it's the Marriott Center, whether it's a neutral court. BYU's got more athletes. They got more talent. They got more depth than Kentucky. And Kentucky's a good team. They're going to be, a top 25 team this year. And they're going to be an NCAA tournament team. And, heck, we could see BYU and Kentucky maybe cross paths in the tournament, but it's just these are good times for BYU basketball, and the dominance and the potential of this team's ceiling was a little bit realized yesterday at the Delta Center in that matinee tilt against the Badgers.
Yeah, third time that BYU has played on an NBA court this season. You count that exhibition game that they played and beat North Carolina in at the same arena there, the home of the Utah Jazz, just across the street from me right now. But the one thing that I really liked, Mitch, about this game is how Kevin Young is coaching this team, the way that he's utilizing his rotations. After starting Mihailo Boskovic against UConn, he ends up only playing Mihailo 4 minutes off the bench yesterday.
And that was late in the game. That was like not until the 6 minutes left in the second half till Mihailo checked in.
And Mihailo didn't have a great shooting performance against UConn, and so I wonder how much that played into it.
Oh, it was bad.
He was 0 for 5 from 3.
He had to be and I appreciate Kevin Young for making that change because, that's one thing about Coach Kevin Young that we've realized. You kind of wondered when he took this job, when he was getting these heralded prospects, would he just almost cave to them? And even when they had adversity, would he just put them on the floor still? You didn't see that with Cannon Catchings. He was more than enough comfortable to bench someone. So when you're not performing, we've seen it from Kevin Young, you're not getting minutes. You've got to perform every night. And you want to act like a pro, you're going to be treated like a pro. That's what Kevin Young does with these guys. He's fair, but he's going to be tough on them. And I just think that's, when you don't perform for consecutive games, like Mihailo went 0 for 9, to open the season and 0 for the first 4 games. And, he was then 0 for 1 yesterday. Again, that's when the game was out of reach, but you got to perform. He's a stretch 5. You got to hit those threes if you really want to be that stretch 5 that BYU envisions you'll be.
Yeah, and the absence of Moo Davis there in the starting lineup you saw 2 games ago against Delaware, he ends up putting Dawson Baker in the starting lineup, and then due to some of the UConn size, goes to Mihajlo against UConn. But putting Dawson back in the starting lineup, I thought that it looked a lot smoother than it did in the first half against Delaware, if that's the best way to say that, because I thought Dawson had a nice performance. He ends up getting 11 points on 4 of 6 shooting, but he also had 2 offensive rebounds and 3 total boards against the Badgers there. I like the way that everything's been flowing as far as rotations have been concerned, without having, a fully healthy Keba Keita, and then you're obviously losing another starter there, for multiple games in Moo Davis. But just a really nice performance from BYU overall, Mitch. I just think that this is, so far through 5 games this season, this is kind of what you would have hoped for. Obviously, best case scenario, you beat UConn, but, that was a tough game, and at TD Garden in UConn's backyard, to be able to get a good win against Wisconsin. I think that BYU is on track for what BYU fans hope for this season.
No question. And to have 18 assists on 31 made field goals, they're moving that ball around. The spacing looked great. There was that ISO where you got just guys that can get to the rim, which is great. It's a luxury that Cougar fans have never witnessed in their lives watching Cougar hoops, to have that sort of talent and the ability from an A.J. DeBonsa who can just on any moment draw a foul on an opponent. That it's just remarkable stuff. But then also the classic style of play with BYU, passing the ball around, the spacing. That when all that comes together, you get performances like that where you can just crush a team. And it felt like, too, Kyle, that BYU didn't overstretch themselves to get a 28-point performance. And it wasn't flawless either. It wasn't like, oh, my gosh, how will you ever replicate that night? I kind of came away from that game thinking BYU could play like this often, like on a regular basis. And you don't assume 28-point wins all the time, but they are capable of replicating those type of performances because of the shooting ability, the athleticism, the just overall talent and depth. It's a really good basketball team that Kevin Young has assembled at BYU this year. And they're next in action on Thanksgiving, Feast Week. I will be there in Florida for BYU versus Miami out in Disney World. Happiest place on earth. Going to have some time with Mickey and Kevin Young. Like, that's a feast. That's a cornucopia of hoops. I cannot wait. It's going to be outstanding. Cannot wait, coming up on Thursday. And you want to get a cornucopia of great food in Provo, go to Emi Sushi and Ramen. Kyle, I love Emi Sushi and Ramen, whether you're craving a hot bowl of ramen, fresh sushi rolls, or just a cozy spot to relax with friends and family. Emi is the place to be.
Yeah, Emi's what I'm feeling right now, Mitch, because it's 1:20 in the afternoon, lunchtime. I'm hungry for their lunch special, which runs from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. You can get any 2 rolls for $10.99. Another special they have, if you tell them KSL's Cougar Sports Saturday sent you, you can get 15% off. They have a lot of specials and just an expansive menu. I was looking at it when we were in there a couple of weeks ago, and both sides are just stacked with awesome options. The BYU roll, Provo roll. I know you loved the BYU roll when we were down there, and just everything from ramen, sushi, Japanese, Chinese dishes, you name it, they have it.
And it's a clean environment, great, well-kept. They got specialists. They got TVs so you can watch games on the screens. And they got their game day combo, too, ramen, sushi, and a drink. Great deals, family-friendly. Go to Emi Sushi and Ramen, 366 North University Avenue in Provo.